Welcome to Enago's webinar in collaboration with Wageningen Academic Publishers, which will aim to provide research scholars with an in-depth understanding of the editorial processes followed at different stages of publication of scientific articles. Today we have with us our expert speakers, Ms. Lindsay Zamponi and Ms. Renate Smallegange. Lindsay is an editorial service expert and consultant with 30 plus years of experience in UK and US publishing industries. She has been involved with copy editing, proofreading, indexing, and project management at all levels of editorial and production, and has held senior management positions at Sage Publishing Limited and NS Publishing Limited, as well as roles at Macmillan Publishers Limited and R.R. Boker. Currently, Lindsay runs her own editorial service management consultancy, Lindsay Zamponi Consultancy, which provides support to academic publishers, professional societies, and other self-publishing organizations. At Enago, she is helping research scholars at various stages of their academic careers achieve their publication goals. In this session, Lindsay will help researchers understand the editorial processes followed at submission, post acceptance for peer review, and post acceptance for publication. Renate has a background in medical and veterinary entomology. She has co-authored 39 peer-reviewed journal articles and 8 book chapters. Since 2013, Renate is commissioning editor at Wageningen Academic Publishers and managing editor at Journal of Insects as Food and Feed. This peer-reviewed journal was initiated in 2014 and is currently in its 7th year. In 2020, the journal received its first impact factor of 3.197. In this session, Renate will introduce researchers to the processes followed at Wageningen Academic Publishers and will help them find answers to some common questions such as what happens after submission, what do editors and reviewers look for, and what happens after acceptance. We extend a warm welcome to both our speakers and thank them for joining us today. Before I hand over the mic to Lindsay, I would like to give you all a brief introduction about Enago. We are the world's leading author service provider, and our author first, quality first approach ensures that our authors receive only the best quality output and excellent user experience at all times. This unrelenting focus on authors' needs means that we never compromise on our quality systems and processes at any cost. All our services are designed keeping in mind the author's need. Enago Academy is our author training platform that educates authors through several resources, including webinars as well as live workshop sessions. We also have an e-learning platform for researchers called Enago Learn, along with a live one-on-one consultation platform called Enago Consult. Enago offers world-class services to researchers at different stages of their research careers, such as two-editor system English language editing services, academic and non-academic translation services, manuscript preparation services, and publication support services. The Enago promise guarantees that a manuscript edited by us will never be rejected based on poor language. On a rare occasion, if rejection occurs, we will take full responsibility for re-editing the paper for resubmission at no additional cost. Enago's comprehensive after-sales service will support you at every step of the way until your manuscript is published. They are designed to take care of every need from time you receive our main services until you are published. Enago's research communication services are designed to help you effectively present your research data. In case you are interested in any of these services, feel free to email us at academy@enago.com. Without any further delay, I will now hand over the mic to our first speaker. Over to you, Lindsay.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, An Insight into Journal Editorial Processes. Today, we're going to discuss how to approach getting a scientific, or STEM, research paper published as an article in an academic journal. The publishing process can be a daunting prospect for early career researchers, so it's very important to understand the details of the various steps involved in order to have the best chance of success at getting your paper accepted for publication. The topics covered in this part of the webinar include the academic publishing landscape, the editorial process at submission, post-acceptance for peer review, insights into manuscript decisions, and the editorial process at post-acceptance for publication. By the end of this presentation, you should have a good understanding of how to approach the publishing process, the requirements that you need to get your work published in an academic journal, and also how to deal with rejection if that occurs in order to have the best chance of success the second time around. The publishing landscape has 5 key constituents: researchers, universities and research institutes where many researchers are based, funders and policymakers, which have an impact on research output, libraries, which provide access to published content, and publishers, which process research papers as articles and convert them into that published content for public access. There are 3 tenets of scientific publishing: authenticity, presenting an accurate and complete account of research, providing data with sufficient detail and references to reproduce experimental observations, accuracy, which means ensuring that data, methods, and samples of unusual materials are discussed in detail, avoiding manipulation of data or images, providing accurate descriptions of images used, and using appropriate statistical procedures. And originality, which means not republishing the same findings, except under special circumstances with the original source cited, not submitting the same manuscript to 2 or more journals at the same time, and not dividing one modestly sized research project into multiple papers, which is sometimes known as salami slicing. This flowchart produced by Wiley provides a useful overview of the submission process and shows the various outcomes that are possible. At the top, the author submits the research paper, which they hope to have published as an article, to an appropriate journal. It is then assessed by the journal editor. Sometimes there's more than one editor, but generally it's just assessed by a single editor, who then passes it on to the reviewers at the point known as peer review. The peer reviewers then review the paper more extensively and provide comments, pass it back on to the editor, who then decides how to proceed based on those comments. They may have suggested very extensive revisions, in which case the reviewer then passes the paper back to the author, who then has to re-enter the submission process and implement those revisions in order to see if there's a possible positive outcome. It could be rejected entirely on the basis of the research not being robust and not appropriate to the journal, or the editor could suggest further review and send it back to the reviewers. That's usually because a certain part of the paper wasn't reviewed properly, or they may have some questions as to how to proceed. If the paper is accepted without any revisions, it then goes on to the publisher's production department, where it will be copy edited, typeset, and where proofs will be provided to the author to check, and then on to publication. What do editors look for in a manuscript? The manuscript must maintain scientific integrity. It should attract an interdisciplinary readership. It should have remarkable scientific importance. It should provide novel insights, and it should be original scientific research. The editorial check prior to peer review, which is when the editor-in-chief is checking the paper, fulfills 5 points of criteria. The editor needs to know that the manuscript falls within the scope of the journal, that it reports research that's novel, that it's been prepared according to the journal style guide, and that it's been written clearly and concisely. It also needs to comply with the standard ethical guidelines. So if your paper fulfills these 5 points of criteria, it should be accepted. And this is why prior to submission, you really need to make sure that you've done your research and you know that the journal is appropriate to what you're submitting, that your research is definitely novel, and also that you've written the paper according to the journal style guide to the best of your ability. The style guide is normally posted online on the publisher's website, and the journal will give you instructions as to how to deal with that. If you're submitting to a society, they usually have their own website. So try to follow those guidelines as clearly as possible. If English isn't your native language, or if you don't write well, it may be worth having your paper copy edited prior to submission. It will be copy edited later. However, if you want the best chance of acceptance, make sure that it's very clear and concise and can be understood by the journal editor and the peer reviewer. And also, of course, those ethical guidelines are extremely important, so make sure that you know what they are within your own discipline. After you submit your article to the journal editor, the manuscript is assigned to an editor with the subject matter expertise. So normally that's the editor-in-chief, or if there are several editors, they'll choose the one most appropriate to your paper. The editor evaluates the manuscript based on its novelty, scope, and implications. And then the editor identifies the referees and assigns selected manuscripts to them at peer review. There are 5 points of reviewer selection criteria. The reviewers at peer review must have no conflict of interest with the authors. They must be evaluating publications in a corresponding research field, so your paper has to be appropriate to the reviewer and vice versa. They must have not published with any of the authors of the paper for the past 5 years. And they must be proficient in evaluating the technical aspects of that paper and have a doctoral degree with several years of research experience. There are 8 types of peer review. Single blind, where the authors are unaware of the identity of the reviewers. The reviewers know the names of the authors. Double blind, where the authors are unaware of the identity of the reviewers and vice versa. Open, where the identities of the reviewers and the author are known by all of the participants. And if the manuscript is accepted, the reviewer reports are published alongside the article. Transparent, where the review report is posted with the published article, and the reviewers can choose if they want to share their identity. Collaborative, where 2 or more reviewers work together to review and submit a unified report, and 1 or more reviewers collaborate with the author to improve the paper until it is publication ready. Cascading portable, where the journal rejects the manuscript but suggests the author resubmit to an alternate journal. And this could be because the paper is of low priority for that journal, so they have other papers that have come in at the same time, which are considered more important at that point in time, or because the paper isn't interesting to the journal's target readers. Post-publication, where the journal provides a platform for post-publication commenting, and anyone who reads the published paper can post their views or comments. And assigned review, where the reviewers evaluate a manuscript and sign their comments, and the authors receive the reviewer names in the review report. How do peer reviewers scrutinize a paper? First and foremost, they judge its scientific relevance, and then the rest of the paper is really judged according to its structure and organization. So it should have all of the required constituent parts, and the information should be organized correctly within the paper in the correct section. So you'll have your introduction, study objectives, the abstract, the experimental approach, the discussion, the results, the discussion, the conclusion, the references, and the illustrations. So we'll just go back to the beginning here so you can review this again. All of these sections are very important, and they do vary sometimes from discipline to discipline, but you need to make sure that you know specifically which ones you need to include for your own discipline in order for the paper to be accepted. There are 3 essential components of a review report: the summary of the research and overall impression of the manuscript, major and minor revision requirements indicating specific areas to be improved, and confidential comments for the editor. This is a sample of a review report, and you can see that everything stated here is very clear. There's a summary at the top, which basically explains the overall impression that the reviewer had. An important point here is overall, the study offers some novel data, especially in terms of the principal objective. The major corrections are all listed in great detail, and so too are minor corrections. If you receive a report of this kind, you must address all of these points, and if you do not, and if you do resubmit the paper a second time around, it probably won't be accepted. So pay close attention. If anything isn't clear, get some advice from a colleague, or if you're a graduate student, from a professor, and make sure that you address each and every point. There are three aspects to the editor-in-chief's role in decision-making. So that's the editor-in-chief of the journal. Sometimes they're called the journal editor. And once again, sometimes there's more than one. So you'll hear them referred to by these different names. They evaluate the suitability of the reviewers at the peer review stage. They judge the overall scientific quality of the paper. And they check the adequacy of reviewer comments after it's passed through the reviewer stage. These are the different rulings that you can get on your paper. It could be accepted without any changes, at which point you would be very happy indeed. It could be accepted with minor revisions. So the reviewers are stating that basically the paper just needs small revisions, but of course that means that you do have to make those revisions and take them as seriously as if they are major revisions. It may require major revisions where the reviewers deem that the paper is valuable, but needs thorough revision and rewriting. It could be rejected with an invitation to resubmit, and that's known as a soft rejection. So that means that the paper has potential, but needs further work in the study conducted. Or it could receive a hard rejection, where the paper neither fits the scope of the journal, nor does it make any contribution to the field, in the editor's opinion. These are not all that common. And of course, in order to avoid having a hard rejection, you need to fulfill all of the criteria previously stated. So make sure that you do that, because no one wants a hard rejection. Reasons for manuscript acceptance are that the research study is novel and original. The manuscript is well written and easy to understand. It's useful to the decision makers. The study introduces a new concept in the field. The research methodology supports the hypothesis. The literature review is apt and extensive, and the manuscript complies with publication ethics. Editorial reasons for rejection are that the manuscript does not fall within the journal's aims and scope, dual submission of the paper to another journal, the manuscript is poorly written and not easy to understand, or the manuscript does not adhere to the journal's guidelines. And these are all very easy points to address when you're writing your paper, and if you do that, it should be accepted. If you ignore any of these, then you're liable to have a problem. The technical reasons for rejection are that the research doesn't add value to the journal, the hypothesis of the study is not clear, the manuscript lacks supporting evidence, inappropriate or incomplete data analysis, the research methodology is incorrect, the results are not conclusive, and the study violates research ethics. If you find that you have submitted your manuscript to a journal that turns out not to be appropriate, you may apply to a manuscript or article transfer service, and there's one listed here by Elsevier, or depicted here, which is the Elsevier service. And what they do basically is they help you to find an appropriate journal to submit your manuscript to. So in this case, it's Elsevier's own journals, but there are other services where they will help you to find a journal within any given discipline by any publisher. They're often called journal selectors. You may do that in the first instance as well, but if you find that you're having a problem, you can seek assistance. Options to consider post-journal rejection are: make the suggested changes and resubmit the manuscript to the same journal, which is what most academics seem to do. Make the suggested changes and resubmit, to a different journal. And that is if the journal turned out to be inappropriate for the contents of your manuscript, which is a wise decision if you need to make it. Make minimal or no changes to the manuscript and submit to a new journal. This is really inadvisable if you've received valuable comments at peer review and also by the journal editor. You really want to take those comments on board. Discard the idea of publishing your manuscript, but post it on sites such as Figshare or Dryad. These are somewhat controversial. You can still get your research out there, but you're basically bypassing peer review. And of course, you won't really be accredited with submitting to a peer-reviewed journal and have the impact factor that goes along with that. Peer-reviewed journals tend to have impact factors of one form or another. So the research is out there. People can access it, but it hasn't been reviewed. So it may not be deemed to be of sufficient quality to be cited elsewhere. Or you could appeal against the manuscript decision. If you do choose to appeal against the decision, here are some tips for an effective letter. Discuss why you believe the review report is biased or the reviewer has made technical errors in the review process. Clearly state why you disagree with the decision and provide any new information that you would like the editors to take into consideration. If the reviewers have noted certain shortcomings, suggest how you could address or rectify those, either by providing additional data or conducting further experiments, so you can make your own suggestions here. And clearly explain the reasons why you disagree with the decisions and present a point-by-point response to the review comments. Sometimes these appeals are successful, so if you feel very strongly about it, then you can do so. Post-acceptance, the article then enters into the publication process and you'll receive an acceptance letter from the journal. You'll receive the article's reference code to track the manuscript's post-acceptance progress. You'll receive an order form that can be used to order off-prints of the final article, a link to the rights and access form, which includes sections on copyright, sponsorship, and funding, and ultimately proofs of the article. At post-acceptance, the article is copy edited by the publisher. And once again, the publisher may be a society, so this may all occur within or under one roof. It's then typeset according to the journal style, so copy edited and typeset according to the journal style. The authors can choose whether to publish in open access, and the authors sign an appropriate publishing agreement and pay the publication costs if appropriate. You will receive different versions of your article. There may be a preprint, and these days you've probably heard or know about the fact that there are many preprints being posted online as the result of research into COVID-19. So that's the author's original version of the article before peer review or editing. The accepted manuscript, which is the peer-reviewed version of the manuscript accepted for publication. The final published version, which is the peer review, revised, copy edited, formatted, and typeset version of the article. And the version of record, which is the final published version that includes any post-publication corrections or enhancements made by the publishers. Why do journals provide an article proof? These are extremely important and not to be dismissed for all sorts of reasons. Firstly, that they verify the completeness and accuracy of the text and all display items, including tables and images. So you really need to go through your proof very, very thoroughly to make sure that you make those verifications, because all sorts of things can go wrong in the process during copy editing and typesetting. Information can be changed, the meaning can be changed, and items can be lost. So you want to make sure that all of your tables and figures are there as well. Providing clarifications for queries raised by the typesetter. So you need to make sure any queries that they pose are answered. And to check for typesetting and conversion errors. So you need to take a very close look at all of these things. Here are some helpful proofing tips. Make sure you check the author names and affiliations. Update any impress citations if published at proof stage. Check for typographical errors, because those can creep in even though the paper's been copy edited. Sometimes editing results in errors being introduced, and even the best copy editor sometimes may end up doing that for various reasons. Don't make extensive changes to the text or move blocks of text. If you change the paper significantly, it would either have to be recopy edited, and if it's that extreme or that serious, then it may have to actually be resubmitted, and you really don't want to do that at this point. Pay close attention to deadlines because everything is on a very tight turnaround time in order to meet with the publisher's time to publication, and refrain from submitting without your co-author's approval. So everybody needs to sign off on those proofs. Points that will be covered in author queries, which are sometimes known as AQs, are questions or concerns that have surfaced during the manuscript editing process. The queries are designed to clear up any syntactical confusion, so that means language confusion, where there may be possibly a change in meaning due to language that has either not been cleaned up or that has been changed in an attempt to edit it. Ensure consistency across the manuscript. Help enhance the clarity and readability of the manuscript, which is extremely important, and so that the authors are able to ensure that changes made during copy editing are correct and scientifically accurate. There are three main ways these days to address author queries. The authors can make changes directly to the text in an online interface provided by the publisher, and I think most of the larger publishers are actually providing that interface today. Describe the changes in the space provided on the proofs for answering the query. And these proofs, I might add, are not received physically any longer. They are electronic proofs, which you would receive by email or via an upload. Authors can leave an instruction or comment describing required changes. So there may be changes that you want to make that don't apply to a query or that do apply, but you can leave any comments that you need to leave at that point in the proofs. This is an illustration of an author query page, something that will become quite common to you as you begin to publish. You see there are different elements here. This is something that has only really come into existence fairly recently, within the last, well, slightly less than 10 years or so, and has become increasingly more popular. It makes life much, much easier for the author. And these are frequently asked author queries. So you may be asked to review the spellings, order, and affiliations of the authors, all of which are very important, to format the accession numbers. Instead of using multiple abbreviations, choose the one preferred and maintain consistency. This is something that comes up quite frequently, so it's something that's good to check actually, even before you submit your paper for publication. Confirm that the edits made to the sentence do not change, modify the intended scientific meaning. This is actually the most common query and perhaps the most important one, because the copy editor may be an expert within your field, and then again, they may not. There are many general STM copy editors who work on these types of papers. And even if the person is actually an expert in your specific area, you want to make sure that the edits that they've made don't change the meaning. Sometimes just very slight changes, even a preposition, can change that meaning. So it's important to scrutinize any changes that have been made and approve them. These are best practices for errata and corrigenda, which you may be familiar with. An erratum is when the author corrects errors introduced by the publisher during the proof stage prior to final publication. So you have an opportunity to do that, and it's labeled as an erratum. A corrigendum is a change or modification to the article that the author wishes to publish at any time post manuscript acceptance. So you can send that in to the publisher or to the journal. And if additional new material needs to be added to the accepted manuscript, it has to be submitted for peer review as new data with appropriate reference to the original. You may wish to have article promotion support, or it may be offered to you. Article promotions help to showcase different studies that are published by the journal, thereby increasing visibility to various audiences. It helps in reaching out to wider audiences, such as the general public, practitioners, policymakers, or funders. Factors that are considered when evaluating an article for external promotion are topics of human interest, such as studies pertaining to public health issues or common diseases, articles that offer unique, unexpected, or surprising findings, high-profile topics that are trending in the news, or articles that have excellent or unusual pictures, or interesting and compelling audio or video files. Article promotion support is outlined here. The journal may share a unique link to a full-text read-only version of your article that can be shared on websites and social media. They may provide a platform that allows you to share your published article along with an impact statement and a short summary. And it may provide a promotion guide that recommends the best practices to promote your article. There are three main benefits of article promotion. It helps to disseminate scientific findings beyond the author's research discipline. It assists in improving the impact of the journal, and it increases online traffic to articles and journal websites. So it really gets the research out there, more into the general public sphere or beyond your discipline, which is also very helpful to others. This is an example of BMC's blog network with an article promotion on it. This is a part of the Springer website, Biomed Central. You can see how this is laid out here. It's very colorful, it's very eye-catching, and basically it brings people to your research that might not otherwise see it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lindsay. And welcome, everybody. As mentioned in the introduction, my name is Renate Smallegange. I am commissioning editor at Wageningen Academic Publishers and managing editor of the Journal of Insects as Food and Feed, one of our publications. And the Journal of Insects as Food and Feed is a peer-reviewed journal with an impact factor of 3.197. And the current editor-in-chief is Professor Arnold van Huys. The journal covers a wide range of topics related to edible insects, such as harvesting from the wild, production in an industrial scale, food safety, consumers' acceptance, etc. There is no publication fee. However, you can choose to publish your article as an open access article, and the journal is compliant with Plan S. If you are interested to submit to the Journal of Insects as Food and Feed, please visit the website insectsasfoodandfeed.com, at which you can see or read the description of the scope. You will find the author guidelines and all information that you need to know for submission. As soon as you have submitted your manuscript to the Journal of Insects as Food and Feed, it will be checked by the journal administrator before it will be assigned to the editor-in-chief, who will assign it to an associate editor who is familiar with the topic of your manuscript, and the associate editor will invite reviewers to comment on your manuscript. The journal administrator will look at whether your manuscript fits within the scope of the journal, and we use also a software called Authenticate to check whether not too much of your text within your manuscript has been used already in other publications, so make sure you use your own wording. We also check whether your manuscript has been written in acceptable English for the reviewers to read. We check whether both the length and the formatting of your manuscript is according to the guidelines. So please check the guidelines very carefully, read it very carefully, whether the formatting and the length of your manuscript fits the article type that you have chosen. Also, make sure that the reference style, both within the text and in the list, is according to the author guidelines. We will also check whether all figures and tables are present and whether the tables are maybe not a bit too large. So when you are preparing your manuscript, wonder whether the tables will fit in a publication or whether they are more suitable to be added as electronic supplementary material. And based on the answers that you give to the submission questions and based on this check by the journal administrator, it is possible that the manuscript will be returned to your author dashboard. And then we ask you either to clarify something, or maybe something is missing in your submission, or we like you to make some changes, for instance, to the citations. And after that, you can resubmit it. And if we are happy with, well, technically with your manuscript, like I said, it will be assigned to the editor-in-chief, who will assign to the associate editor, and the associate editor will invite reviewers who are experts in the field of the topic of your manuscript. And I also would like to ask you to pay attention to this. To facilitate the job of the reviewers and the editors, please make sure that the order of your submission is a logical order. So start with the cover letter, then your manuscript, then the tables and figures, and if you have any, the supplementary materials. And if you are submitting a revised submission, make sure that you start with the response to the reviewers' comments and next the revised manuscript. And also make sure that it's very clear for the reviewers and the editors where you have made the changes within your manuscript. So either use text changes or mark the text that you have changed. And within the submission software that we are using, Editorial Manager, it's very clearly stated how you can make sure that the order of your files are in this order as I'm showing here. So please read very carefully what is stated in Editorial Manager. So what do editors and reviewers look for? Well, this is a list of questions that we ask the reviewers of Journal of Insects as Food and Feed. So they look at the topic, they look at the statistics, are they sound? Does the abstract reflect what's written in the manuscript? Are the conclusions correct? Are the methods described correctly, and can it be repeated, etc. The reviewers are asked not only to comment on your manuscript, but also to give a recommendation to the associate editor, either to accept the manuscript as it is, or that the author should make some revisions, either minor or major, or the reviewer can recommend to reject the manuscript. And please bear in mind, reviewers are given 3 weeks to read the manuscript and to comment on it. However, sometimes we are all very busy, so sometimes they ask for a little longer to assess the manuscript. And also an editor might decide, based on the recommendations of the reviewers, to invite another reviewer or to consult one of the other associate editors. And based on the recommendations of the reviewers, the associate editor will inform the editor-in-chief, and the editor-in-chief will make a decision, and this decision will be sent to the author. And if a revision has been asked for, you will be given a couple of weeks to revise your manuscript and to resubmit it. If you're being asked to revise your manuscript, it does not automatically mean that your manuscript will be accepted for publication. It depends again whether the reviewers are happy with the changes that you have made or not. If your manuscript gets accepted for publication, you will be notified by the editor-in-chief, and you will be asked to sign and send a copyright transfer agreement. Next, the staff at the publishing company will start working on your manuscript, and they will check whether we have received all the files in good order, whether all figures and tables are present. Also, the figures, we will check whether the quality is of a good enough, whether the figures are editable, whether the tables are not too large, or whether they should be converted into supplementary material. And all the citations within the text will be checked whether they are also present in the reference list, and vice versa. And again, the English will be checked. So make sure before submission of your manuscript that the English of your manuscript is of a good quality. And if not, either ask someone who's very fluently in English to check your manuscript, or the contact, for instance, Enago or another professional language editing service to help you. Depending on whether all the files are present or whether there are some problems with citations, the publishing staff may contact you with questions or requests. So please try to answer them as quickly as possible. And next, the Kelly proof of your manuscript will be made and sent to you to be checked whether there has been some mistakes made by the publisher. If the Kelly proof has been approved both by you and internally by the publishing staff, your article will be uploaded to the website of the journal. The DOI will be activated, indexing and abstracting services will be notified, and some other things. Next, your article will be published online, initially as Impress, and you will be notified by email when your article is visible online. The fact that your article has been published will be mentioned in social media like Twitter, LinkedIn, and also in the newsletter of the Journal of Insects, Food and Feed. As soon as your article has been assigned and published in an issue, you will receive the author's copy PDF. So if you have questions about the process at Journal of Insects, Food and Feed, or one of our other journals, please do not hesitate to contact us at wageningenacademic.com. And if you have questions about editing or about the submission platform, or you would like to know more about the scope, or if you want to download the guidelines, please go again to the website of the journal, insectsasfoodandfeed.com. Thank you.
Once again, thank you, Lindsay and Renate. Our attendees have certainly gained a lot of critical information from this session. We thank both our speakers for this informative talk.